So I'm very glad to have Krishna Premarupa Prabhu with us. He will be speaking from the Bhagavad-gita As It Is, chapter 4, text 17. Without any further ado, I hand over to you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. Nice to be in your Sangha, though virtual. So I may start with chanting Jai Radha Madhava, and then we read the text Bhagavad-gita today, Shloka 17. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Chana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Jaya Gopi Chana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Yashodanandana Raja Chana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Raja Chana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad-gita, chapter 4, entitled Transcendental Knowledge, text 17. Karmaṇo yapi boddhavyam, boddhavyam cha vikarmaṇaḥ, akarmaṇaś cha boddhavyam, gahanā, karmaṇo gatiḥ. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. Purport. If one is serious about liberation from material bondage, one has to understand the distinctions between action, inaction, and unauthorized action. One has to apply oneself to such an analysis of action, reaction, and perverted actions because it is very difficult subject matter. To understand Krishna consciousness and action according to its modes, one has to learn one's relationship with the Supreme. That is, one has learned perfectly knows that every living entity is an eternal servitor of the Lord, and that consequently one has to act in Krishna consciousness. The entire Bhagavad-gita is directed towards this conclusion. Any other conclusion against this consciousness and its attendant action are vikarma, or prohibited actions. To understand all this, one has to associate with authorities in Krishna consciousness and learn the secrets from them. This is as good as learning from the Lord directly. Otherwise, even the most intelligent person will be bewildered. Om Jnana-timirandasya Vinanjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasvai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langite Krim Yat Kripadamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Text again. The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. So this is a very important shloka in the Bhagavad-gita, here in the 4th chapter, Transcendental Knowledge. And basically, Krishna explains how we can understand action or karma on the platform of jnana. And as it mentioned here, it's not so easy to understand because we're speaking of action, inaction, forbidden action. So what is what? How to understand it properly? So I think I would like to just go through these 3 terms, karma, vikarma, and akarma. And then we also can try to explore a bit more what Prabhupada means in his purport, because it's quite a powerful statement that Prabhupada makes in a purport, that basically we should be completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness and everything else should be considered to be vikarma. It's quite a strong statement, which I like to explore a bit closer. But let us start with getting an understanding of the 3 terms. Of course, I'm sure most of you are quite familiar with these terms, but it's maybe interesting to analyze them a bit deeper. So first of all, just basically we have karma, which refers to activities done according to the Vedic injunctions. They're often also called karma kanda. These are pious activities which are in line with the Vedic scriptures. Then of course vikarma is the opposite, any activities which are not according to Vedic scriptures. And then it's akarma, which here it's said inaction, but of course inaction, it's much more than inaction. It's actually activities which are pleasing to Krishna. So when we start with vikarma, what do we understand with vikarma? As we mentioned, it's activities against scripture, or we could also say sinful activities. And of course, some people think that, well, there is nobody there to judge, I can do whatever I want. And as long nobody sees what I'm doing, then that will be fine. But Prabhupada emphasizes that we may be able to cheat the law of the state, the government, but we're not able to cheat Krishna. It's not possible. And that's the first thing that a religious person understands, that I do have some responsibility in my action. I can't just whimsically do whatever I want, but actually there is always consequence. And there's always someone sees me. And actually there is a story, maybe heard about it. There was a guru who gave a task to his disciples that they should take a fruit and go somewhere, eat the fruit secretly. Nobody should see them. And of course, with the introduction, you can imagine what the story will be. But most of the disciples come back afterwards without the fruit. Only one person came with the fruits in the hand. And the other disciples already laughed at him. He was able to fulfill the task. And then Guru asked, why did you eat the fruit? And that disciple said, well, Gurudev, I tried. I went to a cave, I went in the forest, I tried to hide. But wherever I was, I always realized that actually there is always Paramatma, there's Supreme Lord within my heart who sees all my activities. So I'm never alone, and I can't eat the fruit without someone watching me. And of course, Guru was very pleased. He said, yes, you're the only one who understood what's actually the lesson of this test. But that's also confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Just at the moment, this morning actually, I read in the 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the story of Ajamil, where there's a conversation between the Vishnudutas and the Yamadutas, the messengers of death, Yamaraj, and they make a nice statement. They say that the sun, the fire, the sky, the air, the demigods, the moon, evening, day, night, the direction, waterland, and the Supersoul himself all witness the activities of the living entities. So whatever we do, there's always many people watching us. There was this show, Big Brother Watching You, but that's going on all the time. There is the devas, the demigods, they're much more powerful, they can see us. And as described here, even the different direction, the sun, the moon, and of course, the Lord himself. So we are never alone, and whatever we do, it will always be seen. So that's the consciousness of a religious person, of a pious person. But of course, the atheists, they don't believe in that. Maybe some of you remember there was, some years ago, was a campaign in London, which spread all over Europe. They had an advertisement on buses. Most probably, God does not exist, so stop worrying, just enjoy life. But it's interesting because it indicates that they somehow feel bothered by the thought or by the preaching that there is someone, someone we are responsible to. But when we look closer, what does it actually mean to perform sinful activities? Because the word sin, it sounds quite heavy, sin. And basically Prabhupada says, whoever is not acting in Krishna consciousness is a sinner. So, but when we look at the word sin closely in German, the word Sünde comes from Sund, which means a kluft, like like something which creates a distance. Or also the Greek word hamartia means that we miss the goal. So sin is activities that we miss the goal with them, because the ultimate goal of life is to please Krishna. And if we don't know that and we do another activity which is not pleasing to Krishna, then we miss the goal. And in that sense, a person, a conscious person, especially Krishna conscious person, always tries to make sure that our activities are pleasing to Krishna. And when it comes to sin in the sense of, because also the Bhagavatam describes sin as, any kind of sense gratification. Like when we go into sense gratification, then there is a chance, great chance, that we start to act sinfully. The interesting also here, Prabhupada gives a very good definition of sense gratification, that sense gratification is something just like salt. Because one cannot take too much or too little. If you have a nice dish, let's say you have a soup, if there's no salt, everyone will complain. It's tasteless. If you put too much salt, you can't take it because it's just too salty. So it needs the exact amount of salt, and then it will be fine. So similarly, we have these material bodies, and we do need to give some sense gratification. The senses, they have some demands, we should need to satisfy them. But Vedic scriptures, they give us some boundaries how to do that. And that's karma. That's activities with the injunction of the Vedas. But if we go over this injunction, and if we, just without any restriction, try to satisfy our senses, then it turns into vikarma. And also, again, Bhagavatam, this is from Rishabdev, who instructs his sons in a very interesting way, describes how we actually understand Sanskrification and vikarma. This is Bhagavatam 5.5.4. Nunam pramata kurute vikarma yat indriya pritaya aprinoti nasadu manyeta da atmanoyam asana piklesha da ashateha. When a person considers Sanskrification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activity. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body, which, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. Actually, the living entity should not have taken a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for Sanskrification. Therefore, I think it's not befitting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activities of Sanskrification, by which he perpetually gets material bodies one after another. So it's quite a powerful statement. And it starts with Nunam Pramata. Pramata means like madness. The thing is, if someone starts to, here is Prabhupada translated it, if someone sees Sanskrification as the aim of life, and most probably that's 99% of all the people in this world, they think that give some pleasure to my senses and then I'm happy and that's the goal of life. But the problem with that is that it leads towards madness. One becomes almost mad, one, because the senses want more and more and more, lust increases. And then in that madness, one forgets about any kind of piety or religious life and just goes for his Sanskrification, and in this way performs all kinds of sinful activities. And the amazing or the crazy thing is that that person does so, but he does not know that actually through these activities he creates more karma, and with that karma he creates the next material body. And it's the material body which is the source of all miseries. We think that the body is meant for our enjoyment, but actually it's mainly here to give us pain. His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj used to emphasize this point. He would say, how much pleasure can you give to the small finger? Okay, so, and how much pain can you give to the small finger? You can hold it between a door and smash it, or you can cut it, or you can burn it, or you can, so many ways, name it. So it shows that the material body is a very sensitive, instrument, and very easily we can get into all kinds of miseries and suffering. So we are actually not meant to have such bodies, but because our material desires, we again and again take up new bodies. Only if we learn to understand that we are not a body and we don't find happiness in Sanskrification, but only in the relationship with Krishna, then we start to detach from the bodily activities, and then we can stop that cycle. So I think that's a very nice definition of vikarma, that we understand it's not healthy to be engaged in vikarma, in sinful activities. So that's about vikarma. So then we have karma, pious activities. And of course, mundane religion, they would say, well, okay, there is some sinful activities, let's do pious activities. And then we can counteract the sinful. Usually people think, yes, I'm a pious person, I'm a religious person, I'm not sinful, so I'm good, that's why I will go back. I will go to the heaven or to God or whatever. But when we look a bit closer, we understand that actually to be a pious person is good, but it's not good enough in a sense. It's not good enough to end the cycle of repeated birth and death, because okay, if you act sinful, as a result you get miseries and pain. If you act pious, you get all kind of pleasure, but that this pleasure will also bind you in the material world. So that's not really a solution. And of course, also the whole concept of prayaschitta, like this atonement. In many religions, if you do something sinful, then you do some atonement, you do some vrata, some extra endeavor to pay off the bad activities. But Parikshit Maharaj, when they're discussing with Shukadev Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj says, no, that doesn't really work. It's just like an elephant's bath. Elephant is dusty, goes into the river, comes out, and then again throws some dust on the back. In other words, people commit sinful activities, they go to the church, they confess, and then the next day they do the same. Why? Anyone? Let's do it a bit interactive here. Why do we again perform sinful activities, although we know it's not good? What would you say? Anyone?
We believe it gives us pleasure.
Okay. Yes, we believe. We still have some belief that it gives pleasure to us. Okay, very good.
Maybe some kind of instinct that forces us to do this kind of sinful activities again and again.
Yes, I like the word forces us. It's actually the habits. Our habits, we are just conditioned to do it, right? And it has to do with, because even if we perform some atonement and some pious activities, that might counteract or create some good karma, but it will not destroy the desire to act sinfully. And then Shukadev Goswami is testing Parikshit in that beginning of the 6th canto, and says, okay, karma will not help, but what about jnana? It's knowledge. With a sharp knowledge, we can destroy all of this. But then, actually, also that doesn't really work, because it's described like if you have a bamboo trees, and then even if you burn it down, there still will be roots, and it will grow again. So even if you have knowledge, it still will not be completely destroyed. But then here comes bhakti, because bhakti is actually the only process that uproots all sinful inclination, and that's also emphasized by Shukadev Goswami. Let me see here. There's a beautiful shloka, also from Bhagavatam. This is 6th canto. Kechit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayanaha agham dunvanti karchnaya yena niharam iva bashkaraha. Only a rare person who has adopted complete, unalloyed devotional service to Krishna can uproot the weeds of sinful actions with no possibility that they will revive. He can do this simply by discharging devotional service, just as the sun can immediately dissipate fog by its rays. So it's very powerful analogy. There's two analogies that it can uproot the weeds. Because with other processes like karma and jnana, it's like cutting, but then there's still a root and it will grow again. But bhakti is such a process that it will uproot it. All sinful desires will be uprooted. And it's also quite easily done. And it's like the sun rays very easily dissipate the fog in the morning. It's not a big endeavor for the sun. So similarly, a bhakti yoga is so powerful that it's very easily done. But it's very rare that someone gets the good fortune to actually perform bhakti. So we are all very fortunate that we somehow received such a powerful process that can very easily destroy this inclination. And it's interesting that Prabhupada also refers to this in the purport. Prabhupada says that to understand Krishna consciousness and action according to its modes, one has to learn one's relationship with the Supreme. And that's the key. Because if I understand that I'm not only an eternal spiritual soul, different from the body, but if I understand that I'm a servant of Krishna, it will give me a different consciousness. And then I understand I'm actually meant to serve Krishna. And I'm not the enjoyer, but the person to serve the Lord. And with that shift, with that change of consciousness, I will be able to change the desires in my heart and my direction, the goal of my life. And then naturally, I will be able to give up sinful activities. And that's the proper understanding of akarma. Akarma means that I perform devotional service. That means I perform activities that are pleasing to the Lord. And as we mentioned, karma, just pious activity is not good enough. Bhagavatam also describes that we as a soul, we are traveling in the body, which is like a vehicle, like a chariot. And the chariot moves on two wheels, punya and papa. So piety and sinful activities, they're just moving and repeating. In some lives, we're a very pious person. Then we become puffed up because we have so much money and influence. Then we act sinful, and then we become again a sinful person, and then we repent and we become pious again. And in this way, we go up and down. But that's just a cycle of birth and death. Only when we perform akarma, when we perform activity which means they have no reaction. And the only way to do something with no reaction is that we offer it to the Lord. That's sometimes misunderstood. Some yogis sometimes think that, well, akarma means I just don't do anything, and then I don't get new reactions. I remember a story. There was once a yogi in India. This was recently. That yogi felt that, okay, I have to perform akarma, no activities. So they made a wooden box for him, and he jumped into the box and closed the box, and he just was sitting there. And once a month he came out and took a bath in the river, ate something, and then went back to the months for the next, in the box, and waited for the next month, and then came out. I mean, but that doesn't really help, because we can't stop acting. And I believe some ISKCON devotees came and brought him a Bhagavad-gita As It Is, so that he can learn about what akarma actually means. But that's a general misconception that akarma means, you just stop material activities or activities altogether. Of course, yes, you stop material activities, but you basically spiritualize your activities by dedicating them to Krishna. And acting for the pleasure of Krishna, of course, we heard that previously also in the Bhagavad-gita, in the famous shloka from the 9th shloka of the 3rd chapter, Yakyatat karmaṇo yatra boddhavyam karma bandhana, where the Lord says that all work should be performed as a sacrifice for Vishnu, and otherwise karma bandhana, otherwise these activities will bind you. And there Prabhupada makes the same point. It's interesting, the purport makes the same point. 2 points are similar. First of all, Prabhupada says, as in this purport, that it is very difficult to understand and that we need to learn it with the help of an authority, with the help of guru, sadhus, devotees. We need to discuss this topic and understand it properly. That's mentioned also in the purport of text 9, chapter 3. And also there it says that nothing should be performed without satisfaction. But that should be done for the satisfaction of Krishna.
Prabhu, you're muted. Unfortunately, something went wrong. There was a technical glitch. You have to unmute yourself.
All right.
Yes. Okay.
I'm back. Huh? Okay, I don't know where I was stopped, but basically what I said is that it's a strong statement that we should not do anything for sense gratification, but just should act just in Krishna consciousness. But as we mentioned, we gratify our senses to a certain degree as it's properly, but then the main point, and with this I would, conclude towards the conclusion, that what does it actually mean, what Prabhupada says here? I hope we got an understanding of vikarma, karma, and akarma, right? Otherwise, if someone has a question, let me know. And otherwise, I would like to speak a bit more on this point that Prabhupada says that to understand Krishna consciousness, that one has to learn one's relationship with Krishna, and that one who has learned perfectly knows that every living entity is an eternal servitor of the Lord, and that consequently one has to act in Krishna consciousness. So once I understand that I'm a servant, then naturally I will act in Krishna consciousness. So that's why that realization is so important. The more I understand I'm a servant, the more I naturally will be engaged in Krishna consciousness. And the more I still think that I am the enjoyer and the controller, the more I will tend to do other things. So it has a lot to do with how to identify ourselves as what, as whom. And this is basically when we come in Krishna consciousness, this is what spiritual master teaches us as first. You're not a body, you're a spiritual soul, and you are an eternal servant. And whenever we hear Bhagavatam, whenever we study Bhagavad-gita and scriptures, it is emphasized again and again, we need to basically change our identity. We are servants. We are not enjoyers. And I like to talk a bit on that what does actually bhakti mean? If someone is a bhakta, then what does he sees? A bhakta, he only sees one thing. And it's interesting, when Dronacharya wanted to examine all his shishya, the Pandavas and the Kauravas, what did he do? You remember? There was a parrot in a tree. And there was a tree and a parrot. And Drona asked, what do you see? And some said, well, I see a tree. Some said, I see branches, I see a bird. And Arjuna said, I only see the eye of the parrot, that's all. So he had that focus. So similarly, when it comes to do seva, when it comes to devotional service, a true bhakta, what do we see? Our only focus point should be Krishna. Like the focus is like, how can I please Krishna? That's what is my focus. As a bhakta, I want to please Krishna. I want to give pleasure to him. And when I do my devotional service, I want to make sure that it is done out of love and that Krishna will be pleased. And that's the kind of consciousness that we need to cultivate in our daily activities. So a sevak, a servitor, he always sees his sevya. He sees the object of his service, which is Krishna. And in this way, he wants to serve the Lord. And in bhakti, there is no svatantrata, or like no independence. That's also a strong statement, there is no independence. Usually we want to have independence, we want to have freedom. But actually in bhakti, there is not so much independence because we are servant. Slightly, some independence is given to us. For what reason? So that we can serve nicely. And otherwise, if we misuse our independence, what happens? Naturally, we will, become attracted to Maya, to the external illusory energy, and that's also the reason why we are here in the material world, because we have misused our independence. Krishna has given us some independence, but that independence actually is meant for service. And because in bhakti we should always be dependent on Krishna. That's the idea, that we really depend on Krishna, that we make ourselves dependent. That's Sharanagati. We surrender to Krishna. We understand he's our only protector, he's our only maintainer. I'm depending on Krishna. And I give up that idea that I am the enjoyer, I am the controller. No, but I'm just a simple servant. and I'm happy. My happiness lies in the happiness of Krishna. Chaitanya Charitamrita says also, Ekla Ishvara Krishna Ara Sabhabhritya, that only one is to be served, that's Parameshwara, Ishvara. There is only one Ishvara, that's Krishna. And all others are Bhritya, or servitors. The problem is, in the material world, we think that I am the center of the universe, and everything I see is meant for my enjoyment, and I'm the supreme controller, and everyone should do the way I want it. The only problem with this consciousness is that if everyone else also thinks like that, then there's a lot of conflict. Because if everyone thinks that I am the center of the universe and everything is meant for me, then we have the situation that we have here in the material world. But Krishna consciousness means that we see Krishna in the center, and then we understand that he is the Ishvara, he is the controller, and he is the enjoyer, and we are meant to give pleasure to him. And that's the way how we become actually happy as well. And of course, being part and parcel of Krishna, we also have qualities. So we have some independence. But as I mentioned, the independence is given so that we can serve him nicely. And an example is given that, like a son is massaging his father's feet. Of course, that's a Vedic example. I don't think that in Germany or in Switzerland so many sons massage the feet of their fathers. But in Vedic culture, that's quite common. Like the son has great respect for the father, and he massages the feet. So, but if he's not given independence, he cannot massage nicely. If the son is bound up with ropes, he can't move, he cannot massage, he cannot do the service. So naturally, Krishna gives us independence, he gives us freedom. Yes, we have freedom, but the freedom is meant so that we can serve Krishna. But if you just walk away and don't massage, or we misuse the independence, then that's what we have done. And that's why we are suffering. So therefore, it's so important to always remember that we are actually meant to give pleasure to Krishna. And he's also the only enjoyer. And if we develop that idea that I am the enjoyer, then it's called Purusha Abhiman, that we have this Abhiman, this ego that we think I am the enjoyer, I want to enjoy. But that's not very helpful, because true pleasure we find in the service to the Lord. And it's interesting also in our understanding, there is actually bhoga and tyaga, like enjoying and renouncing, is not really something that we have to be concerned, because we cannot renounce something if we don't possess it. And if Krishna possesses everything, then what should we renounce? And we're also not meant to enjoy because we are servants. So in this way, as a Vaishnavas, we understand that would be the best to just become Krishna's servants. And this is what Prabhupada stresses in this purport, and also in purport 239, that we should really absorb ourselves in serving Krishna. And in this way, perform akarma and not become bound up in any reaction in the material world. Okay, that's the philosophy. Now, I don't know, in practice, maybe sometimes not so easy, because first of all, we're not living all in the temple as brahmacharis, brahmacharinis, and just serve Krishna, but we also have our job, we have families, we have our hobbies, we have many different things we do. And also, we might not have so much love and affection for Krishna that we just think about him all the time, and that's why I spontaneously do everything for him. So what to do about that? Any suggestions from your side? I mean, I raised 2 points, that first of all, we have many different activities, and second, we may not spontaneously feel so much for Krishna because we don't know Krishna so yet well. Any ideas how we go about that?
Chant Hare Krishna.
Chant Hare Krishna. Okay, very good.
Very easy. Yes. And serving. No? I'm very. I thought chanting should be enough, and then I learned no, you also have to serve. And then I got the explanation from a guru who said, when you chant, you begging for please engage me in your service, and then the service comes and you don't serve. Yes. So serving and chanting, no? and to give oneself also the time to develop, because we have done things wrong, and now in the Kali Yuga I find it very very hard to act 100% in Krishna consciousness. It's impossible. We can only beg for the mercy, I think. So, and that's by chanting.
Thank you. I think it's a very, it's our basic understanding, but it's actually very deep, because when we chant Cetodarpana Marshanam, the mirror, the heart will be cleansed, and then we more and more realize our identity as servants. The more we absorb in chanting, and as you said, also simultaneously actually do some service, then that consciousness will more and more manifest in our life. Yeah. Okay, that's a very good suggestion. Chanting and doing service. Thank you. Any other suggestions? Because I think it's important. Philosophy is nice, but we need to take something with us practical.
Hare Krishna.
Kusha Prabhu, yes.
My humble obeisances. Thank you for your class. I think we should hear regularly Srimad Bhagavatam for purification. Because by here is Shravanam, our method is Shravanam, Ketanam, Vishnu Smaranam. We first of all have to hear from authorized sources to be able to fix, to know what is to be done, what is not to be done. Then come the chanting, because the Prabhupada said Smaranam, first hear, Ketanam, then chant, then Vishnu Smaranam, remember the Lord. These three principles of devotional service helps the sadhaka to really advance quickly and know what to do and what not to do. That's just the ABC of the first step, I feel I should say.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, hearing is very essential. We mentioned about chanting and service, but why hearing is so important? Because it helps us to remember, or to more deeply understand. And of course, it's part of association also. We associate with other devotees, we hear different realizations. And hearing is extremely powerful process. Thank you. I had something also in mind which I can share, but let's see if someone else likes to share some realizations on this. Okay, if not, maybe some question will come up afterwards. What I thought of is two things. One is, of course, Prabhupada called the movement, it's Krishna consciousness. And so it has a lot to do with consciousness. So as we know, even if we're not living in a temple and we have our lives, it has a lot to do with in what consciousness we do the activities. So seemingly ordinary activities can be fully Krishna conscious. I might be working in a factory, or I'm a mother taking care of the kids. But if I do that, in a consciousness of pleasing Krishna, then this is completely an akarma activity that can be quite spiritually powerful also. So it is a question of consciousness. But yeah, in order to get that mindset, we need to listen, we need to chant, we need to serve, and that will more and more develop. But that's how we can, as Prabhupada says, dovetail everything with Krishna. That's one aspect. And Prabhupada spoke often about this. And another point is, because we spoke about serving the Lord with love and devotion and understanding our relationship with Him as servant, sometimes it might be not so easy to feel that connection or establish that connection to Krishna, because we don't know so much Krishna. It's sometimes for us maybe still a bit abstract. Of course, that's why also hearing is so important. The more we hear about Krishna, the more we develop that relationship to Krishna. But another aspect which I wanted to emphasize towards the end is also our relationship to Guru. Because Prabhupada says we need to understand, it's a very difficult topic and we need to understand with the help of Guru. But also in the sense of that we need to develop this higher taste, this param drishya nivartante, that the more we develop a higher taste, then naturally we will give up lower taste, and naturally we will be absorbed more in the bliss of Krishna conscious activities. And in order to attain such taste, in order to really absorb deeper, one aspect or one secret in Krishna consciousness and spiritual life in general is also our relationship with our spiritual master. Because Guru Bhakti and Krishna Bhakti, they are going hand in hand. We may not know or understand Krishna so closely, but our spiritual master, we have chance to develop a closer relationship to him. And that's also was Prabhupada. For Prabhupada, this was a very great drive in his life, something which was very deeply in Prabhupada's heart, that desire to please his Guru Maharaj. And that desire to please his spiritual master basically gave him the strength and the energy to go through so many difficulties. And that's certainly a powerful way to always remember, to, as we mentioned, that understanding, I'm a servant, and I'm meant to serve Krishna, and I'm meant to please Krishna. So I'm also a servant of my Guru, and I'm also meant to serve my spiritual master, and to kind of increase or make this understanding deeper, that I'm a servant of my spiritual master. It can be a powerful meditation. And maybe I'd like to end with a statement. This is, we know Srila Prabhupada, this text from Bhagavad-gita 2:41, Yasyatmika buddhi, that those in Krishna consciousness who are, those who are on this path are resolute in purpose and their aim is one. Like those who are fixed in devotional service, they really know what they want. And Vishnava Chakravarti Thakur, in a purport to this shloka, writes a very powerful statement about the relationship between Guru and disciple. And for Srila Prabhupada, this purport of Bhakti of Vishnava Chakravarti Thakur was a great source of inspiration. Whenever Prabhupada had difficulties, we know many times Prabhupada went back to the pier there, to see when a Jaladuta next ship goes back, because he was, it was difficult. But what kept him going was this purport of, this understanding, but also from this purport of Vishnava Chakravarti Thakur. So I'm going to, short, let's just read it. The instructions of my spiritual master to worship the personality of Godhead by chanting, remembering, serving his feet, and so on are my only sadhana and my only sadhya, my only goal, my only livelihood. I'm unable to give up these instructions either in the stage of practice or in the stage of perfection. They alone are my object of desire and my only responsibility. Besides them, I can desire no other responsibility, not even in my dreams. It is all the same to me whether I feel happy or unhappy, or whether my material existence is eradicated or not. So in other words, the instruction of my spiritual master is my heart and soul of my life. I take these instructions and make them the most important thing in my life. And that's certainly one of Prabhupada's secrets, that he had such a tremendous faith in his Guru, and tremendous love, and tremendous determination to please his spiritual master. And I personally feel that this is also very important in our spiritual life, which can help us to always remember that we are meant to serve Guru and Krishna. And in this way, we can be absorbed in the mission of Prabhupada, the Acharyas, and perform akarma activities, activities that will not bind us to the material world, but rather will liberate us more and more. All right, Hare Krishna. So this is what I wanted to share with all of you. Let's see whether some of you have some questions or some comments on what we heard.
Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. Before we come to the questions, I would very briefly, just for a few seconds, we have already some questions in the pipeline, but before we do that, I would like to very briefly share my screen with you, which is, I don't know if you can see it. This is the bus that you mentioned before, the bus campaign. There's probably no God. Now stop worrying and enjoy your life. So yeah, they just say probably. They don't know it either so well. So anyway, that was just the bus campaign that I wanted to show you. And we have some questions here. Bhaktintina wrote some time ago, and I think you might have mentioned that, or you have talked about it to her already. She asked half an hour ago, in the age of Kali, do we just have to chant Hare Krishna?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yeah, it's the Yuga Dharma, no doubt about that. It is the essential activity. And chanting means to remember Krishna. Karmaṇo bhakto, that's Krishna's instruction, to always remember him, always think of him. So when we chant the holy name, we always remember Krishna. But since we are, most of us, maybe there is some Haridas Thakurs on the Zoom conference here, but most of us most probably are not able to chant 192 rounds every day. So because that's not possible, we need to do some other activity. And Prabhupada very kindly gave us a whole mission, ISKCON. We have many opportunities to engage ourselves in service. And then through that service, we purify ourselves and we become more and more qualified to chant more and to remember Krishna more. So yes, chanting is the essence, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada gave us a whole spiritual culture, and we have many different ways how we can absorb ourselves. But the essential point is always to remember that we want to love Krishna, we want to serve Krishna. In New York, there is a Prabhupada disciple. His name is Adipurush Prabhu, very wonderful devotee, senior devotee, and he always says, "How wonderful is Krishna? Let us serve him." That's his slogan, and I like it really much, very much, because how wonderful is Krishna? Let us serve him. The more we understand how beautiful Krishna is, the more we naturally want to serve him, and that's what we want to achieve. And chanting is essential, but we also want to be engaged in other practices.
Kusha Prabhu has a question, I think. We still have some more questions, but Kusha Prabhu can ask now.
Hare Krishna, please. My question, in the course of your lecture, you mentioned that someone who is yet, our duty is to, our relationship with Guru will help us, is one of the things that will help us a lot. So my question is, someone who is yet to have a Guru, how does he remember whether he or she should serve Krishna or not?
We all have a Guru.
Like a kami, a non-devotee.
Okay.
Like we went on Sankirtan, nobody knows what is to be done. So how do they know what is the first thing they should know, they should do?
Okay. So your question is, I emphasize the importance of Guru. What about people who don't have a Guru?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, of course, in ISKCON we understand we all have guru. We have Srila Prabhupada as our predominant Shiksha guru first, and of course later on we accept a living sadhu in the parampara of Prabhupada who guides us further and connects us to Prabhupada. And for people in general who have not accepted the guru yet, then of course the devotees, the preachers, they may act as Shiksha gurus and help people to guide, because we do not need to understand Guru Tattva is a very, I mean, it's very mystical Tattva. It's not so easy to understand also, it's very complex. But we may become instruments in the hands of the Lord to act as either Vartmana Pradarshaka Guru, as someone who shows the path, or if we actually continuously help someone and guide someone, then in some way we become their Shiksha Guru. And then when they become more advanced, then we can guide them towards someone who can initiate them in the tradition. So, and that's what Prabhupada's program also. There's many places Prabhupada emphasizes that all the members of the Krishna conscious movement should become perfect sadhus so that we can give the association that is needed for the people in general. So yeah, that would be one way we could answer the question. And then, of course, we can give people, if the people don't associate with us, we can give them books. And then the Shastra acts as guru. They can learn from Shastra. And in this way, hopefully develop faith and develop the desire to associate with devotees. Is that satisfying your question? Or?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
There is also a question regarding this very topic. There are some more questions, but since this question is very closely related to what you've just said, I shall take that one first. Leka Shabanti Mataji asks how we can understand that the relationship to our guru is the most important thing, and how can we develop that relationship without demanding too much, but instead of demanding or just taking away energy or taking up time, serving the guru. So sometimes we may inadvertently have the tendency to just demand or to take away some time or something like this. And how can we really cultivate this servitude?
Thank you, very nice question. Yeah, especially nowadays when our gurus have hundreds and thousands of disciples and everyone wants to be close to Guru Maharaj and have personal relationship, and that might not be possible for everyone. Although I personally do feel it's quite important to, I mean, I think it's the duty of the disciple to ask for personal instructions. The Guru gives general instructions. Guru gives, chant 16 rounds, read Prabhupada's books every day, be engaged in the Sankirtan mission. These are general instructions, and of course they are very important. We take them as our part of our life. But that's my personal experience, that it can be helpful if you actually ask your Gurudev, how can I serve you? And can you please give me some personal instructions? And why I emphasize this, because as we know, there's two things. There is Vapu and there is Vani. There is the physical form of Guru and there is the instruction of Guru. And what is more important of the two? I mean, they are both important, but Vani in some ways is more important in the sense that it is eternal. And Vapu is temporary. At some point, Vapu will not be there. And even now, it's not so easy accessible. No. Sometimes maybe we get a chance to cook for Guru Maharaj or wash his clothes and iron his clothes. This is Vapu Seva. That's wonderful. If you can do that, that's great. But we don't get that chance all the time. But if we receive some instruction, and it can be simple. It's not that Guru gives to everyone the instruction, well, you have to translate the Shastra scripture in the English language and preach all around the world. These instructions, like a person like Prabhupada receives such an instruction. Our Guru may tell us, well, be a nice mother, take care of your children, or learn to play the instrument mridanga and sing kirtan in the temple. But these instructions are powerful because when Guru leaves the planet and we don't have his physical association, we will always remember these instructions. And whenever we play the Mridanga or whenever we take care of our kids, we do remember our Guru because he told us we should do it. And that through this Vani, through following the instruction of Guru, we actually develop a very close relationship. The relationship to Guru becomes deeper through service. And especially we get some instruction, we can follow that instruction, make that as our service. And that, of course, it's also through prayers, and we may deepen that relationship. That would be one way I would answer this question. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think so. The person who asked the question has just left Zoom because his Zoom, because of some technical difficulties. So there are 2 questions that are closely related. One by Lydia. She asks, how can we be sure that the activities that the Lord likes the activities that we offer to him? And Deeptanshu asks, what activities are pleasing to Krishna? And does akarma also delete older reactions?
Okay. Okay, how do we know whether our activities are pleasing to Krishna? I guess there's different approaches to this question. I mean, a standard answer would be, well, Sadhu Guru Shastra help us to understand this. Scripture explain. And with the guidance of the spiritual master and the devotees, they will engage us in service, because actually seva is not something that we take. Seva is something which is given to us. So usually seniors, they engage us in service. And then through that we can understand. And maybe another aspect is, if we see that the Vaishnavas are pleased, that's a pretty good indication that Krishna is pleased as well. Because to please Krishna is not so easy, or it's maybe not so easy to understand, but to please the Vaishnavas, when Krishna will certainly be very pleased if the devotees are happy. And that's always, and that's why serving the Vaishnavas in some ways even more important than serving Krishna. And that's, if you want to be sure to pleasing Krishna, then another aspect is very important. Also our relationship that we have. How do we deal? How do we interact with the other Vaishnavas? That will be very pleasing to Krishna. That kind of service. Yeah. I would say that of course, as I mentioned, we can take guidance of senior devotees who help us to be engaged properly in service. And the other question was whether akarma destroys other reactions. Yeah. Yes, Krishna says, Sarva dharma parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja, that just surrender unto me and don't be afraid. I will take away all your sinful reaction. So when we surrender to Krishna, when we dedicate our life to Krishna, Krishna promises that he will take care of whatever is there. It will be destroyed. And actually, through engaging in devotional service, the power of bhakti, it's compared sometimes to a fire, forest fire that burns away all sinful reaction, or also to a digesting fire. Like if you ate something with a strong digestion fire, you digest everything. So bhakti acts like that, and it will destroy. But the thing is, we need to be detached from good and karma and vikarma, from good and bad karma. We have to give up and engage in Krishna consciousness, and that Krishna will take care of the rest.
There is one question by Shumit. He asks, if someone surrenders all the results of his or her fruitive activities unto the lotus feet of the Lord, does he or she have to worry about the actions of karma?
Okay. Well, of course, if you surrender to the Lord, if you really surrender to the Lord, and then that karma is taken away. But then the question is, how do we continue our life after that? Okay, we surrender, and what do we do then? Because there is always the possibility to again fall into the trap of vikarma and sense gratification. Actually, the example is given with the initiation. When we taking shelter of a spiritual master and get initiated, then it says that Guru takes away our karma. Of course, without karma, we can't exist in the world. So it says that Guru takes it away, of course, forwards it to Krishna, who then burns it. But some remaining karma is there. And Guru and Krishna, they will use that remaining karma to purify our heart so that we can attain perfection. And Prabhupada compares this remaining karma to when you have a fan, like in India, they have this ventilator, when it's hot. So if you plug out the fan, there's no electricity, but it still will rotate for some time. So similarly, karma might be taken away by Guru and Krishna, but there's some remaining karma is there. And that karma will be used to purify our hearts. But then of course, that's true as long as we follow the instruction of the spiritual master. And in this way, we are connected to the parampara and to Krishna. If we deviate, if we reject our Guru and not follow spiritual master instruction, then again, we are back in the material world, and again, our karma cycle starts. But as long as we are under the shelter of Guru and Krishna, then we can be confident that we don't have to worry about karma. We just continue with devotional service and everything will be fine.
Concerning the initiation, the issue of initiation, Bhakti-Tina asks, I learned that only Diksha Gurus can deliver the soul. So what if one gets no Diksha Guru, meaning no living Diksha Guru? Does the connection to Srila Prabhupada count to deliver a soul?
Well, in general, it's described that it's a teamwork. I mean, Guru and Krishna are a team in one sense. By the mercy of Krishna, we get Guru. By the mercy of Guru, we get Krishna. And also, Diksha and Shiksha Guru. In general, we get the deliverance, in order to deliver a conditioned soul, it's a teamwork between the Shiksha and Diksha Guru. But of course, the Diksha Guru takes responsibility. That's the idea, that the Diksha Guru, as we take a promise to follow regulated principles and follow an instruction of Guru, chant 16 rounds, that's our promise. And Guru promised us to take us back to the spiritual world. That's a serious promise from the side of Guru. Basically, he connects us to the parampara, he connects us to Prabhupada, and then we'll be delivered. But Prabhupada, when we look at his teachings, Prabhupada emphasized again and again and again that we need a living sadhu. It's like if you study, it's not enough to just read some books about medicine and then you claim yourself, I'm a doctor. No, you may have studied everything, but you have to study under a professor. And the professor has to recognize you as understanding the subject matter, and then you can become a doctor. So we may study, but we need to study under the guidance of a guru, and that's a living guru. It's a sadhu, a living. Because it's very rare. It's there that usually how bhakti is awakened, it's usually by sadhusanga, by guru. There is some cases that Krishna himself, of course, can deliver anyone, and also Shastra has power to deliver. But these are very, very rare cases. In general, that's because Krishna made that system. Krishna has arranged it in such a way that we need to take shelter of one of his dear devotees, and through his mercy, we will come to Krishna. So we accept Prabhupada as a Shiksha Guru, and he's very prominent and very important in our lives. But in order to get this connection to Prabhupada, we have to have a Diksha Guru, a living sadhu. That's very essential. And those people who claim that that's not the case have not understood philosophy properly.
That was why I asked the question.
Yeah.
Because there are people, they say you don't need a living guru. If you have one, it's fine. If you don't, it's okay. You have Srila Prabhupada through his books. That was the background for posing this question. Okay.
Yeah, I thought so. But I didn't want to go too much into that direction. But we see parampara and Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition goes back thousands of years, and there is always parampara. There is living sadhu. That's a tradition. It's no question, actually.
Okay, thank you very much. There are no questions in the chat left. We have answered them all. Thank you very much. And thanks to all of you devotees who have joined us from all over Europe and all over the world tonight. And we hope to see you again next week. And we hope to see Krishna Premarupa again sometime in the near future. It was a very nice and enlivening lecture. Thank you very much, and have a good night. Hare Krishna.
Thank you all very much, Joseph. Hare Krishna.